Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and today we're going to talk about a GASB proposal related to the replacement of IBORs. As many of you know, LIBOR and all of its derivatives are going away. The expected date for that is about 2021. And both FASB and GASB are providing guidance on how to handle this transition. So today we're going to talk about the GASB proposal. So this was issued on September 16th, and comments are due November 27th. So we have a little bit of time before we have to comment. As a reminder, this is about the global reference rate reform. So we have found that LIBOR is not as accurate, I guess, as we would like. That was subject to a little bit of manipulation, and people, the federal government got involved, created the concept of SOFR, and then we are moving away from LIBOR altogether. And so as a result, when that goes away, this creates some accounting issues. So GASB 53 tells us that if there's a change in a rate, then it requires you to terminate your hedge. So this is not a voluntary change in rate. This is the rate is actually going away. And so as a result, if you had a lot of hedges, this would be undue burden for something you have no control over. Same thing with GASB 87 for the lease standard. If you have a change in a rate, you have to do a revaluation of the liability. Again, we are just getting into the leases standard. As we're going through this and doing the implementation, we don't want to have to revalue everything when LIBOR does go away if they have any leases that are pegged to LIBOR. So as a result, they are going to give us some exceptions here. So for the first one, dealing with the exception to hedge termination, hedge accounting should continue to be applied to a hedging derivative instrument that is effective as of the reporting period if all of the following are met. The first one is the instrument is amended or replaced to change the reference rate or to change or add a fallback provision. So a fallback provision is basically if something happens to this rate, then you move to this one. Some have it, some don't. If the reference rate of the amended or replaced hedging derivatives variable payment is multiplied by a coefficient or adjusted by addition or subtraction of a constant, the coefficient or constant is limited to what is necessary to essentially equate the replacement rate and the original rate. So again, we don't know, but what you replace it with might not be the same as what LIBOR was. And so how can we make this as little change as possible? If the replacement of the reference rate is effectuated by ending the original effective instrument and entering into a replacement hedging derivative, those transactions occur on the same date. So if the bank, for example, decides to terminate the hedge and then create a new one, and the terms that affect changes in fair value and cash flows in the original and replacement hedging derivative are identical, except for the term changes that may be necessary. And so what term changes are permitted? Term changes that may be necessary, the frequency with the rate of the variable payment resets, the dates on which the resets occur, the methodology for resetting the rate, and the date on which the periodic payments are made. These are all deemed to be acceptable term changes. So as a result, basically, if you replace one rate with another rate, it's not a termination event. You can continue to deal with it as an existing hedge. So that's one of the nice pluses there. In addition, it does remove LIBOR as an appropriate benchmark rate because it's going away. And even if it doesn't go away entirely, because of the susceptibility of it, they are making it clear that we should not be using LIBOR instruments going forward. As a result, they did update the definition of a reference rate. In the old one, you can see here that it really talks about the types, LIBOR, SIFMA, etc. Under the new one, it really just describes what is a reference rate. So it gives a little bit more detail here. For leases, they also tell us that if the only amendment we're making to the contract is to replace LIBOR, or any IBOR really, with another rate, again, similar adjustments to get it to replace the original rate as best as possible, then it's not a lease modification and we do not have to do all of the revaluation here. So the proposed effective date is for the removal of LIBOR as an appropriate benchmark interest rate is the periods beginning after December 15, 2020, which would be calendar 21. And then all other requirements related to the termination impact for hedges and the leases would be for reporting periods beginning after June 15, 2020, which would be fiscal 21 and calendar 21. Early application is permitted. No surprise, this is a GASB proposal. So this is an important requirement. We do have to do something about this. Otherwise, we would have massive revaluations happening and all kinds of things going on simply because LIBOR, which is predominantly used, is going away. So both FASB and GASB are aware of this. FASB's already put out their proposal, which we've talked about earlier on the Genuine Learning blog. And now we wanted to make sure we address the GASB proposal. So comments are still open. So if you're interested, feel free to provide feedback. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you on a future blog. Bye-bye, guys.